A few days ago, KCTV5 interviewed the 10 candidates running for governor in the state of Kansas. And of course, the subject of the Chief Star Bond came up. Now, we already know that the Star Bond is going to increase taxes on the people of Kansas. That much is well established. And you can see more detail about that in my prior video, Chief Star Bond, Impact on Kansas Taxpayers. But Ty Masterson brought up a new subject related to the Ancillary Development, which is well described in the Project Monitor 2.0 document. And per that document, the Ancillary Development is going to be funded by $975 million of taxpayer money. Now, Ty Masterson is a very important person. He drove the Chief Star Bond through the Kansas legislature. So when he speaks about this, we should listen. We should listen very carefully. So here's the 9-second video.
We'll talk about that public-private partnership, but there's a requirement upon the chiefs for an extra $1 billion on top of all that in hotels, bars and restaurants, entertainment.
Now, I'm going to read it off to you because I think it's this important. I'm just going to go ahead and read it. Because people talk about that public-private partnership, but there's a requirement upon the chiefs for an extra $1 billion on top of all that in hotels, bars, and restaurants, entertainment that's coming in. All right, so let's examine that the chiefs have a requirement for an extra $1 billion on top of that. It implies that the chiefs are going to invest another $1 billion in the state of Kansas. But here's what the agreement actually states. The chiefs will make operational at least $1 billion worth of qualified ancillary development by December 31st of 2038. Well, what does make operational mean? That's kind of strange language. It doesn't say invest in, it says make operational. And where does the money come from? It also says that the state shall ensure that a total aggregate funds up to, and here's the $975 million, are allocated and available to the chiefs for the qualified ancillary development as follows. And then it gives us some detail. So the chiefs will make operational at least $1 billion of development, and the state will make available up to $975 million for the ancillary development. All right, so in this process, there are going to be 3 tiers of disbursement or spending, you might say, in $500 million increments. I have a real hard problem saying billions and 500 million. These are big numbers. But anyway, so the first tier, the first $500 million, the state is going to put in 60% of that, or $300 million. The chiefs are responsible for this. Responsible is important. For 40%, or $200 million. And I'll explain the responsible for here in a couple of minutes. So that's tier 1. Tier 2 is another $500 million. The state contributes 65%, or $325 million of that. And the chiefs are responsible for the other 35%, so $175 million. And then there's a third tier. Now the chiefs are only required to spend $1 billion. So we're up to that with tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 3 is another $500 million. Now, if the chiefs decide to spend that money, and it's all what if the chiefs decide is right, if they spend that $500 million, the state is responsible for funding 70% of it. And I've got it right there on the screen for you. You can look at it. So the state's responsible for $350 million, and the chiefs are responsible for $150 million. Okay, so the total at the end is the state spends $975 million, and the chiefs spend $525 million. All right. Now here's the great mystery. What is this responsible for business? Well, the chiefs are allowed to bring in third parties to provide part of that funding. So let me read again directly from the document. The chiefs will fund or will cause third parties to fund within the development area or greater Star Bond district. And there's a bunch of language after that that I won't go into. But bottom line is the chiefs can get other people to put up that money. Now, what the heck does that mean? It means the chiefs are planning to pre-lease the ancillary development spaces like bars, restaurants, hotels, etc. And the money from those companies pre-leasing that space will fulfill their requirement for funding the ancillary development. So the chiefs aren't planning to commit any additional money. Yeah, sorry, but that's exactly what the document says, what it leads you to believe. And now here's the other thing. So let's say you're a bar owner or a restaurant owner, and you're anywhere near this development, which at this point is anywhere in Wyandotte County or half of Johnson County. And by the way, a bunch of this money can be spent, I think it's $100 million, can be spent outside of those boundaries. So you could wind up with somebody in Topeka, with the chiefs building something out there. And so if you're anywhere near any of this, do you think it's going to be fun competing with a company across the street that has had their entire building and property paid for by, 65% of it's paid for by the state? In addition, there's a big question about whether they're going to be paying property taxes. Now, within the Star Bond districts, for sure they won't. So the development down in Olathe, they're not going to be paying any property tax. If the chiefs build something in Topeka, I don't know about that. But won't that be fun? I mean, does it work for you? As the church lady on Saturday Night Live would say, well, isn't that special? So if you think this is bad, then you need to call and email your state representative. The only way out of this at this point is for them to push and call for a special session. And let's fix this thing. And the candidates running for governor who think this is a bad deal, they ought to be pushing for this as well. So, I'm one voice. We need 10,000. And you could be part of that. So it's up to you.